Hey, it's Jessica Goose here with RealAgriculture.com. It is the last and final day at Farm Tech 2019 here in Edmonton, Alberta. And joining me right now is Drew Lerner of World Weather Incorporated. Drew, how's it going?
Just great. It's a wonderful show.
It is.
It's always a blast to come here.
It is. And this is my first time here, and I have been just overwhelmed, I think, by the amount of just things to learn, not only with your topic of weather and what we're about to talk about in just a second here, but all the agronomy aspects. There's machinery. It really is a little bit of everything here.
It's quite the playground.
It is.
It's a great place to be. If you have any interest in agriculture,
Yeah,
this is the place to be.
This is the place to be, exactly.
Absolutely.
All right, so let's talk about what you love to talk about, which is the weather. As it pertains to producers, big thing, especially with Plant 2019 around the corner here. Maybe let's start in the east. What are producers going to be expecting with this spring forecast?
Well, you know, the biggest problem with the conditions in the east right now is the very wet conditions they ended last year with.
Yeah.
And there's tons of snow on the ground. It keeps snowing, and it's really a big mess. The concern we have is that as we go forward through the spring season, that they're going to continue getting storms, and if they get normal amounts of rainfall and snow, it's still going to be too much because they're so wet. I believe there's still crop there that has to be harvested still in some spots, and so the bottom line is that they really need to get into a dry weather mode. I don't see that happening right away. I think that as we come into the start of the season, it'll be very wet, and they will dry down, but it's going to be kind of towards the latter part of the planting season and more in the part of the growing season.
Yeah.
And then I think things will get better as time goes on. So we'll end up with temperatures that are probably close to normal during the growing season, and we'll have maybe a little less than normal rainfall, but after the planting
But expect that tons of moisture to be there. If only it could be flipped to the west, which is what we're going to talk about now.
Yes.
What about the west? What can kind of people see here for spring?
You know, we have just tremendous amounts of moisture deficit still remaining.
Yeah.
You know, we had 2017 and 2018 both that were just really dry across Saskatchewan and southern Alberta and even parts of Manitoba. In 2016, we got clobbered with all kinds of rain, and the ground was so wet we were all, wondering if and we did come around and we went too dry. Now we're carrying all these moisture deficits, and the pattern we're going into this spring is going to promote a tendency for more below average moisture. We've got an El Nino event coming up, and El Nino events tend to make central and southern Saskatchewan and southern Alberta drier biased in the spring. Now, that doesn't mean it's not going to rain. Okay, it may rain, but
so not all hope is lost.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's
okay.
right.
Good to know.
There's still going to be a chance for some precipitation, and but it's going to be less than normal. And if you're looking to fix the moisture deficits that are out there from the past 2 years, that's not likely to occur. Not during the spring.
Okay.
As we get into the summer, those areas, will start getting better rainfall.
Okay.
So if it's the crop in the ground, we manage to get some timely rainfall, it'll be a really good summer. We'll have aggressive growth. We'll have temperatures that'll be near to above average, and a regular occurrence of rainfall. Now that's central and southwest Saskatchewan and southern Alberta. In Manitoba, southern Manitoba, we're probably going to have a wet spring.
Okay.
A lot of storms going from southwest to northeast across the U.S., and they'll come up into the Great Lakes region, and they'll end up wrapping around up there, and so there'll be a bunch of backwash that'll come from the States into Manitoba. So they'll end up with a wet bias in the spring. In the case of northern Alberta, where it's so wet, they've had a terrible 3 years trying to get it to dry out and get crops out. That area is going to continue to deal with a frequent occurrence of precipitation. So as we go through the spring season, they, like southern Manitoba, going to have too much moisture, but they're already too wet. Southern Manitoba is kind of dry. It's going to be actually a good thing for them.
Yeah.
So
it'll hopefully balance itself out a little bit there.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know that it's going to be a very good spring north of Highway 16 in Alberta.
Oh, gosh.
But in other areas, I think we'll probably get along okay.
Yeah.
And it's always darkest before the dawn. So the summer will turn things around a little bit.
Okay.
We'll get the wetter bias in Saskatchewan, and we'll also get a drier bias going in north of Highway 16. So if we can manage to get some crop in the ground, things will get better as we go deeper into the year. And in the case of Manitoba, we'll probably have a good mix of summertime weather.
Yeah. Have you seen these variables in the past? I mean, obviously weather is always variable, but we're talking, lots of moisture here, no moisture there, too much moisture here. There's really no happy medium. Is this kind of a regular occurrence over the past couple of years? You did mention 2016 there, and then last year with 2017, right? What's kind of, I don't know, the status quo? Is this normal? Is this not?
No one knows what normal
Yeah.
is, right? It's all a matter of perspective. What was it like when you were growing up, right? When I was growing up, the weather was perfect all the time, so it seemed, but it's not anymore. So
These millennials, they're messing it up.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. But I think the bottom line is that we are seeing more volatility in the atmosphere, and I have very strong feeling that that's going to continue.
Yeah.
So it's not going to necessarily be the same things that are extreme, but we're still going to go from one extreme to the other. And we don't know when it's going to happen, but it's going to happen.
Yeah.
And so we have to stay attuned to the forecast. We can usually pick up on these things, but with not a lot of notice.
Yeah.
So that's probably the most important thing. We're going into a solar minimum coming up,
Okay.
which is really important because it has, the sun controls everything.
Yep.
It controls how much heat's reaching the earth, how warm the oceans are, how intense storms are, and how few and many there are. So if the sun goes into an extremely long period of quiet activity,
Yep.
it means that less energy is going to be reaching the earth. We're going to see all kinds of weird things happen. And it may turn out that it's going to be much more challenging to be in the farming business. Not that it's not already.
Yeah.
But from my perspective, it's going to be more challenging to try to give a good forecast that's going to verify, because we're going to be going into a period where we don't have much data from.
Yeah, it's almost a roller coaster, I would assume,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, it's always going to, yeah,
I
absolutely.
mean, weather is always a roller coaster, but with that one, you don't really have anything to predict by. It's tough.
It is.
It's
It
tough.
is. And if we, go ahead.
But no, what about frost? I mean, we saw the East Coast here get hit really hard. Potato numbers this year were way down.
Yeah.
Not good at all. There's still, even I've been told, lots of potatoes left in the ground. Are they going to kind of still get those frigid temperatures still?
We will probably see some of that in the start of this year. There's going to be a lot of surges of cold coming out of the Northwest Territories and Yukon. So there will be continued surges of cold. They will disfavor Alberta and maybe even western Saskatchewan. So the further east you go, the more those will be significant for a while. When we get into, let's say, the start of the planting season in April, May, then some of that cold in the east will start to dissipate.
Okay.
But I can almost assure you that there's going to be a couple of sharp cold surges that are going to occur during the planting season and shortly thereafter. So it's going to be really important not to get too far ahead of ourselves. And that's a problem that's not just going to be in Ontario and Quebec. It's going to be in Manitoba and East Saskatchewan too.
Keep the mittens out. Don't pack them up just yet.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Lastly here, I guess, what is maybe one region that you're kind of keeping your eye on, that you're maybe intrigued about, whether it's good, whether it's bad? What's kind of one region that's just interesting to you this year?
All right, anywhere in the world?
Let's keep it in Canada.
Okay.
Yeah.
Probably my biggest area of interest is in central and southwest Saskatchewan and southern Alberta, because we're walking on thin ice as far as the amount of moisture that's in the ground. And I do see a pattern here that's not going to support a lot of high volume moisture early in the season, which is good if we get low volume moisture and manage to get enough to get the crop in the ground and get it off. But we're just a little too dry in a lot of places. Okay. And if we manage to miss a couple of important events, then we're going to be waiting for that crop to germinate, and then we may end up, or even maybe wait to get in the fields yet. And then it's going to rain later on and it may shut us out. So that's an area that I think we need to watch. And that area north of Highway 16 in Alberta, there's a lot of unhappy campers there. And I think that there's a lot of justification for that. And I don't think it's going to get better in the first few weeks of the growing season. Here. So all of that I think is very important. And really, so is Ontario and Quebec because of all the moisture they've got issues too.
You just need to flip.
They do. That's
just take the moisture here, take the dryness there, and just even it out.
And we kind of did that in 2016 to 2018, right? So we can do it again. It's just a matter of when.
Yeah.
Hopefully that's why I'm here, right?
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Well, it's been a pleasure talking to you, Drew. Thank you so much for swinging by the Real Ag Lounge here at FarmTech 2019.